Hey everyone, I'm Grant. I'm the host of the Juice Step podcast, and we got Michael Maynard, my buddy, who'll be serving as the co-host. And we want to start a podcast just as a way to be authentic with any athlete or any coach who may be able to learn from our experience as well as our failures. On this episode of the podcast, Mike and I touch upon our college experiences playing as baseball athletes. Let's get juicy. So we're just going to start with a little bit of introductions as why we wanted to kind of start a podcast and what we think that we can bring to the table. So, Nard, you want to give us a little introduction about yourself, man?
Not really, but you kind of told me to, so whatever. But yeah, I'm a couple years out of college now. What is this? Second year out of college. We both started playing. What was it? I mean, eighth grade. Coach Dusty.
According to you, it was eighth grade.
Well, it was. I mean, I'm sorry that your poor life choices deleted your memory from that part.
We can keep going from there. Let's kind of. So you started at Waubonsie Community College. What did that process look like for you? Were you a scholarship guy, or how'd that work?
No, they don't even do scholarships at D3. People don't know that. D3 JUCO.
Imagine. So why did you choose to go to Waubonsie? Kind of like walk us through that process.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, baseball wise, I didn't have any other options. I didn't play in high school, so I didn't really want to go away to school. And as the more I kind of got close to it, I realized that what I was desiring with baseball was just a community, a culture to be around people, area people were going to push me. So that was back in my mind. That's why I took a chance and figured, you know what, let's go community college. Let's go play baseball, and whatever happens, happens. If I suck and I hate it, then hey, at least I went and played college baseball and I gave it a shot. If something doesn't work out, then I mean, junior college is meant to weed people out. I mean, how many people did we started with 60 guys on that team?
Yeah, I think it was around 60, and after that first week of I guess you could call it tryout week,
yeah, because I remember that there were people that were like offered, and then they had a bunch of walk-ons, but there wasn't really like a difference. Like it really is like you talk to the coach beforehand, you can pretty much just show up, and if you're good enough, they'll keep you around.
So coming from a background with no baseball experience in high school,
I mean, it's not. Yeah, I didn't have no baseball. I just didn't make my high school team. So I mean, it's not like I showed up and never played baseball. It's like.
All right. Well, so easy, what I'm trying to get to here is like you mentioned that JUCOs kind of weeds people out. So like, what it felt like? What do you think was your way of kind of sticking through the program, especially if someone that doesn't come, like most of these guys are coming from high school where they kind of understand the process. Obviously, college, the game speeds up more. But what do you think kind of helped you get through that time of like learning the process of college baseball, especially at the JUCO level?
Well, I mean, it's kind of, and I'll talk about this a lot more, I'm sure, but when you kind of get told your sophomore or junior year that you're not good enough to play the sport that you've invested your life into, then it kind of humbles you. So if you're coming into college, because like you said, there's a lot of people, you go to college and you've been the best player on your team throughout your life, and a lot of people you have to get used to. Because I mean, obviously junior college, it's only 2 year. Now it's third and fourth years because of COVID. They allowed some of that, but for the most part, you're going someplace when you're fresh out of college or high school. You're not going to go play anywhere in college. So it's not like I was a little bit behind and that I hadn't been playing high school, but I was ahead, and that there wasn't really a shock for me that, hey, that you're behind people on the depth chart. I was kind of used to that. So for me, it was more like I didn't come in and try and be the star and act like I had all these expectations. I didn't act like but like that I thought I was good and that I thought I was owed something. Because I mean, it's ridiculous sometimes when you hear these schools and the programs, they have 60 to 80 guys. And then you think about baseball, there's only 9 guys that play. And there's only maybe 10 guys that actually pitch.
Mm-hmm.
So realistically,
perspective, because when we get into my story, like I definitely came to the fact, like thinking I was the best player, or at least one of the best players, because that's what you're kind of fed growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to a college, like whether that's D3, D2, D1, it's like all those kids are told something similar. And so like I think like you said, like yeah, you might have been behind the eight ball a little bit from like a physicality standpoint, but from just like the mental fortitude to succeed, you kind of gotta like in a sense almost humble yourself a little bit to find that success.
Yeah. Nice. And going into the one difference too, because from what I knew from high school and what I knew from college, that college baseball, there's really no option to just kind of go through the motions. Like high school, it's very easy. You only have a 3-month season. You play whatever sports, you go to class every day, and then you go to your practice from 3 to 5. You play however many games during the week. College, it's pretty much you walk into school August 20th, August 21st, whenever it starts usually. Baseball starts then. Like you get a little bit of time depending on where you go to ease into it, but like that's your life. Like if you're gonna really be committed to the whole college baseball thing, that you don't really get a job, you don't get a huge social life. You have to do your classes, but that's kind of a necessity for baseball too, that you gotta have minimum GPAs or whatever. So I think that's
not what college athletics is definitely not what people make it out to be.
No, because I mean, I think that was another area where I was ready too, that I was always a student first. And that's kind of, again, too, like when you don't play the sport for a while, that was kind of my approach is when I went to like, and again, I don't know how in depth we're going to talk about this, but a lot of people, like when you're picking a school and we were looking, it's at the end of the day, if you don't play baseball, if you blow out your UCL or your ACL in your first throw, your first practice, could you still go to school there? Can you still get a degree out of it? Like that's an important thing. And for me, in the back of my mind, it was never about baseball. It was more baseball was just an outlet and something I get to do. And then I got to pour in a lot of effort into.
Yeah, I like that. And we'll kind of, I don't want to jump the gun, but I think that's a good kind of question to ask after the JUCO level, like what you were looking for in school. But just kind of back it up a little bit. So freshman year at JUCO, how did you kind of mend that gap of a physical standpoint? Like, were you getting after in the weight room? Were you staying extra hours? Like, what did kind of your day to day look like as far as like competing with like guys that have been there for whether that's 3 or 4 years because of eligibility issues or, red shirts, or even just like competing against guys coming in that were like better ranked players than you? Like, what did you find your way to kind of get in? Cause like, we'll look at the end, obviously then you become the starting third baseman in our playoffs. So like, how did you go from,
thanks for bringing that up.
How did you go from this walk-on kid who got cut in high school to,
the worst third baseman and
worst starting third baseman in the Skyhawk?
Yeah, no.
You want to call it? What did your process look like?
No, I mean, I even could sense in the fall, like I knew that I was behind in terms of reps, but I didn't feel like skill wise that it was impossible for me. So a big thing was that I hadn't been on a consistent training program, even in high school too. I mean, like I think I lifted, I knew how to do stuff, but you don't really know how to do stuff, which that's something that with how you use your work and your platform now, that's an important thing. It's just mending that bridge between, okay, I'm just going into the gym and doing some pull-ups and benching and whatever versus having a plan and having a way to get results. So that was a big thing for me, is pretty much November to February is, hey, I need to get stronger. And a lot of times you're in that position, you haven't really had a program. You kind of just, it's a low hanging fruit. So you just kind of get those gains. Yep. So I definitely picked up a lot strength wise. And a lot of that's just maturing too, that I was always, my birthday was young for my age, so I was a little bit behind anyone. So eventually I started to kind of catch up physically to a point where I don't want to say I was bad growing up, but I wasn't really a powerful kid. I wasn't really an explosive athlete. A lot of that started to come later in college as I started lifting, as I started committing. And in terms, extra work is a topic that I know me and you have our own stance on, but I definitely felt a little bit, just part of the way I was raised and part of my approach is that I'm not good enough. So if I want to be as good as somebody, I need to outwork them over time that became less of a necessity and more of just, I want to be good at what I'm doing. It doesn't matter what other people are doing. It's my skills. I need to work on fielding ground balls because when a ball is hit to me, I need to be able to field it. I need to get batting practice because I need to be able to figure out how to adjust my swing and how to work through slumps and how to hit good pitches. There was all of that. But that was a lot of, it was that first semester is like, knowing I'm behind. It's very easy when you know you're behind somebody on a depth chart that you have a clear target, that you have to outwork someone, you have that competitive standard. So that was the easy part of it, I never really was lacking any motivation, that I knew that I wasn't good enough. So I wasn't just going to sit around and hope that I got good. You got to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you make a good point. I mean, I feel like especially as you mature as an athlete, it's less about the amount of hours you put in and more about the quality you're getting into those hours. I think everyone loves to talk about, like, even in like in the job world, like how much hours they're putting in per week, but it's like, what you might have put in 40 to 50 hours, but like, what did you actually do with those 40 to 50 hours? Versus just like, being consistent and having a routine kind of and structuring your training in the sense that like you're actually getting work done when you're taking advantage of those extra hours. So I guess transitioning, so you kind of worked your way into the starting lineup. How exactly did that? I forget. Kind of what was like your I guess like breakthrough series, breakthrough game? Like what kind of got you in the lineup?
Yeah, I like the acting because there's no way that you forget. I mean, you probably remember me. Yeah, but
I actually don't remember like everything. So I mean, it'll be
good. No, the story that I go with is that we went down to Florida, we came out hot, then we hit a lull.
Got a little too lit. Shout out LeBron 20. What was that? 2018.
Do we hang on? This is a public podcast. Do we want to talk about that or?
We'll save that for another pod. But I mean, that
I figured. I mean, point being,
maybe we'll do a round table with the team and get everyone's.
No, but I mean, we went down to Florida, came out super hot. Then we were up. Then we lost I think 10 out of 12 or something, and guys were leaving, guys were hurt. It was just kind of a mess. And keep in mind at this time, what's going on in Mike's life is every time I go do anything, I realize my ankle's hurting.
Soft.
And whatever. I mean, I don't need to disclose my full medical history, but basically my ankle just hurts whenever I do anything. So I didn't learn this until after the season, but I have to do certain things to manage it. And it's like, I wasn't injured, but I didn't know at the time really what it was. And I think I had 3 at-bats through 20 games. So this is in my mind as we're losing, the season's going off the rails. I'm not getting any playing time. I just remember that, I think it was that Elgin series. I was really told to do the music box. Do you remember this at all, or is this news?
No, I mean, I remember the Elgin series. You did kind of go off. But
I just remember because we just lost. We played the Elgin series. I was supposed to go up into the thing and play music, the people's walk-up songs, and we got cooked that game. I think the final score was 15-0.
Yeah.
We got slaughtered. We were never in the game. And in the back of my mind, I'm kind of thinking that if they're going to keep throwing this, at some point, that you just got to throw out the walk-ons, throw in the bot, see what you have.
Yeah.
Because I remember I was a little intentional that I was kind of going and asking people before the game. I went to the coaches and I'm like, "Do you want me to do the music box again?" And they were like, "Actually, no, stay here. We might need you this game."
Yeah.
So I know there was an injury. I know I came in. I know I pinch hit a double. I mean, it threw me a fastball right down the middle. If anyone who's played baseball can hit that, but sometimes, yeah. I mean, but I remember I hit a ball in the gap, and we came back and won. So,
dude, I remember that. That was kind of your moment. Ever since then, you just kind of ran.
Yeah, because the next day I was penciled on second base, and I'm lucky that I kind of stayed on a hot streak. I'm notoriously a very streaky hitter. For anyone who's played with me in college, they know that I'm not the most fundamentally sound hitter. I can have a stretch where I'll go 7 for 9 and hit balls and gaps and everything I hit is a single. And then I'll have a stretch where I look like I've never played baseball before. So I kind of got the opportunity, and we needed a little bit of offensive spark. So that's
no, I think that's bold, and I think that goes for like, especially if anyone listening to this is like complaining they don't get opportunities. Like, I don't know, man. I'm kind of over that excuse because like you get your opportunity, whether or not that's an ideal opportunity for you. I think people always love to complain that like, oh, I wasn't ready. I was coming off the bench. Like, it's like the opportunity is going to be there and the conditions are never going to be perfect. And if you suck in that opportunity that's given to you, all they're going to remember is that you suck. They're not going to remember that you came off the bench cold. They're not going to remember the fact that you were doing music box. Like they don't give a crap about that. Like you have to take advantage of your opportunity. It's a results driven game. And if you don't, then it's just on to the next guy.
Yeah. And we're both, we'll get into it more, but we're both very Christ driven people. And we tend to, at least I've always been more like the results are going to happen. And it's not like there's a reason that some people succeed in bad opportunities and some people don't. Some people have more skill sets or personalities where they thrive in non-optimal situations. But at the end of the day, no one's going to get a perfect opportunity. But the last thing that teammates want to hear is people making excuses of any kind. And I know me and you have both been guilty of that too, but it's like you never want to be complaining too, just because when you have people on a team, everyone wants their opportunities.
Right.
And like you said, it's results driven. So if the coaches they're not going to give a kid that's batting 2 for 30, they're not going to keep giving him at bats. Even if you could say that they're putting him in and blowout, you could say you're putting me in a blowout, you're putting me in after I haven't hit in 3 weeks. Like at the end of the day, someone's going to get a hit. So
right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So progressing a little bit further, you had a good freshman year. Obviously, sophomore year was COVID. Stuff kind of hit the fan.
Yeah, that's probably more in depth, but I mean, you want to
like
hang on. You want?
All right, we'll slow down.
You want to keep the timeline. You want to go me and then you, or go time? Yeah. I feel like we should go timeline. Like I feel like now it's yours.
So flip it. You want me to go?
Well, yeah, let's go. Grant Lava, the hot shot kid out of Glenbrook. Shoot, was it West?
Glenbard West.
Glenbard West.
Yeah, so I was I was good coming out of high school. Like I had rankings. I had some, PBR fame for all the PBR lovers out there. But at the same time, like I was going to a D3 JUCO, so it's like it was kind of an oxymoron in the sense that like I was a high ranked high school athlete, but at the same time, like I was going JUCO, and so that was kind of a reality shift.
So why Wabanzi?
Why Wabanzi?
Yeah.
It's actually I was actually thinking about this the other day. It's a pretty funny story. So I go and visit Maryville College in Tennessee, the Division III. I don't even know if you know this story. I go visit Maryville College, Division III in Tennessee, because I literally had like no offers at this point. I had like an Eastern Illinois offer at like junior year, but they wanted me to commit then, and I thought the school was going to close down, so I couldn't, put my eggs in that basket at that moment. So yeah, I go visit Maryville and I love it. Like it's a really cool facility. It's in Tennessee. I love Tennessee. And I'm texting Jimmy and Clayton. Shout out Jimmy, just got engaged.
Jimmy.
And I remember Jimmy being like, "Oh, congratulations, you're gonna go play at a D3 for all this like hard work you've been putting in." And that just pissed me off so much. Here I am, saying I'm going D1 or bust, and I'm like excited about this opportunity to commit to D3 baseball in Tennessee out of high school. And then Jimmy, out of all people, is blowing me up for it. And so I'm just pissed. I'm riding back to the airport. Literally was going to commit, I guess not really commit to a D3. And I get a text from whatever Kang Yang from Perfect Game saying that Unger saw me at a showcase, basically the same Perfect Game email that he sends to everyone. And
I was never good enough for perfect games, so I don't know about anything.
But then I'm like, all right.
Another language to me.
At first I read it and I thought it was Wabash. And I'm like, if you know Wabash, they're top freaking D1 JUCO. I'm like, heck yeah, I'm going here. And then I realized it's Waubonsie. And so, I'd take a visit. It's a pretty good facilities, pretty nice. And I'm like, you know what? Screw you, Jimmy. I ain't going D3. I'm going to go D3 JUCO instead. So that's kind of how I ended up at Waubonsie.
Interesting.
That's kind of that story, I guess.
Because one might say that a D3 JUCO is a step down from a D3.
Yeah, but like when you look at
I am not saying that, but one might say that.
Yeah, one might definitely say that, especially being from. Oh man, we're running out of time. We only got 10 minutes left on our recording.
Yeah, geez, I wonder if we can just like end this and like just start a new recording.
We probably could.
Yeah, it's that difficult to just edit and splice two videos together.
Yeah.
Hot start for the Juiced Up pod.
It's juicy though. So yeah, especially being from Glen Ellen when all my buddies are going like Ivy League schools and like these big time things, and here I'm going to Waubonsie Community College. I literally remember one of the kids' moms being like, I need to put my education first. And yeah. So that was kind of tough, especially.
Like they told you that?
Yeah, they said that I need to worry about my education and not go to a community college. So, that's just
we won't discuss that now. I have lots of opinions about the education system.
Yeah, if you want to go pay $75,000 to take the same course.
Yeah, exactly. Because community colleges just have professors that don't care about the students, and they think everyone's just some kind of bum. No, it's the same exact exaggeration, or education is the same price. So
yeah, the same person that also called my girlfriend a hick at the time, and it's now my wife. So I think things worked out pretty well.
Interesting.
Anyways, we'll move on from that. Well, on that.
Yeah. So your path to stardom was it was kind of in line with mine, but I know you needed to be a little humble first. So maybe talk about like the path between like you get to Waubonsie, you have your expectations of yourself and what you think you're going to be. And then through that winter, through that fall, like what was that? What was that like for you?
Yeah. So when we get there, it was like me and then my roommate at the time, and then maybe like one other kid. I'd say like we were probably like the most, I guess, hyped kids coming into class. Like people kind of heard of us, like that we were supposed to be good and whatnot. And I feel like he ended up having a pretty good fall and kind of kept his reputation, I'd say. But I think I had a pretty bad fall overall. I just remember sitting in that exit meeting and basically getting grilled that like, I'm not good enough. I'm not going to play. Like I need to figure some things out. And then I freaking like, speaking of the ankles, I thought I broke my ankle going on a run one morning. And that was kind of
soft.
Yeah, it was soft. That was kind of a tough recovery process. Like I just felt like I could never get back to 100%. So just kind of like dealing with that in the off season, feeling like I had to like skip out on some certain like things. Like it was just, I just felt like I was just not living up to my full potential. And I think part of that comes with like at the time, baseball had always been my life. Like I thought that that's what I wanted to do forever. And I think like after that first semester, I really had a reality check that like baseball is not all of my life. I met Hannah, met you, and like I feel like you guys kind of shifted my focus in the sense that like there's more to the game of baseball. And I wanted to believe that as much as I could going into the season, but like I think it was just the contradicting views of like just now recognizing that, and then also like still having that that viewpoint that basically shaped my whole life leading up to that point. And so not starting like the first 2 weeks of the season, that was obviously really tough. And then kind of similar opportunity that you had, I don't remember exactly what mine was because we went down to Florida and I didn't touch baseball. Like I didn't start game one. I got my game two. Oh, I did something. What did I do? Oh, I jammed
the one story I remember
on a tag play. I remember that?
Yeah, you jammed your thumb. And I just remember the Rock Valley game.
That was
shout out Rock Valley. Somehow Rockford, Illinois is at all times 10 degrees colder than the rest of Illinois.
Yep.
But I remember there was like 20 degrees and I think we were getting shelled again. But I just remember me and you were sitting in the dugout talking about God knows what for the whole first game and a half.
Yeah.
And then at some point you called in again. I know you went 2 for 2, and I think I was kind of like, well, damn it, now you're in the game, so now I'm back here alone on the bench.
Dude, yeah, that line
after I was
literally just whoever got a hit that game was playing.
Yeah,
it was pretty wild. No, I think that game I think I went like 7 for 7 on the day. Like I don't think I got out. And so then ever since then I kind of stuck in the lineup. But I remember in Florida, like I hurt my thumb on a tag play, and then I think I did had an okay game to get me in the lineup. The next game I literally couldn't freaking squeeze my glove. And so again, I felt soft trying to sit out of that game, but I knew I had to kind of keep in the lineup. But ever since that, I never really got right back into my stride until that Rock Valley game. That's kind of when things kind of started to click a little bit. And then kind of had a pretty average season, I'd say, from there. Like nothing great, but nothing bad either.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember the stats, but I mean, you played every day, and at a certain point, like you don't play every day if you're not productive. So, I mean,
yeah, not like the expectations that I wanted for myself, but like on paper, it was good enough to like have a good sophomore year. And then I guess that's when our team kind of fell apart. So then I took
so now this is the juicy part now. Shout out to Juiced Up Pod. Everyone wants to know.
Took the Kobe route, and is that the Kobe? No, KD route.
KD. Bail Bonzi for Oakton.
Left Wabanzi for Oakton.
I'm sure that went over well with all your former teammates.
Yeah, I mean, looking back on it, it's kind of funny that it was even such like a big thing. Because it's like in the moment you think it's such like this big part of life, but it's really not. Like it's really not that even.
Well, I know it was emotional for us because it was emotional. It was emotional for me just because I'd struggled toward the end, and like my whole thought that next year is it's normal if you play sports. Like you lose to a team, you want to beat them. You want to run it back the next year. You want to get better. That was kind of my motivation. Is like
and I want to make sure that transfer to them.
What?
And I said, screw that. I'll just transfer to them.
Yeah, that's, I guess, yeah, KD. If you can't beat them, join them. Shoot, low power.
Oh, man, this is a gong show. But
no, I would say compared to how I thought this was going to go, this has gone a lot smoother.
Yeah, it's not too bad. We'll get the kinks.
This will get better, but it's, yeah. But, yeah, but like I know that was I think for a lot of people too. Like I know there are a lot of people. It's pretty normal at junior college if you don't play 1 year, if you don't like your situation. Like I knew a bunch of people after us that like they transferred within conference, they transferred to other schools. Like, it's not normal, but I think the fact it was to the team that were very close to beating. That we literally split with them, I think, in the season series. I know we beat them a couple of times, they beat us a couple of times.
Yep.
And it was just. So I mean, yeah, like you said, and looking back, it's not that big of a deal.
No, but like in the moment, I definitely see that. But like,
yeah,
I don't know. At the same time, like I knew that I think I was still chasing baseball as much as I didn't want to, and I just thought that was the next best bet. No regrets on it. In the end, really didn't even matter anyways because it was COVID. So.
Yeah, you want to talk about COVID?
Yeah, we can talk about COVID a little bit.
Was that EGT or was that? No, that was pre-COVID.
EGT was after Wabanzi.
Yeah, that was after Bonzi. That's kind of when you started going down your. That was I do remember. Like I said before too. I think like I did kind of notice at a certain point like you were kind of less. You knew like my future is in training. This is what I love to do. I'm not trying to be a pro baseball player. But I could definitely sense that internal conflict. It's like, where can I go to win? Where can I go that's the best for my development?
Exactly.
I mean, that is the reality. Is like you have to be looking out for yourself as an athlete. But transfer portal, NIL era of 2023, there's a lot of factors that go into being a college athlete.
Yeah.
It's not simply just you need to buy in, you need to serve your time. Like everyone's got I hope what anything with the whole point of why we're doing is to just show that everyone's got their own path.
Yeah.
And really no paths to success are
it's never straight. And like especially like when you plan this stuff out, like you think that you're gonna, especially in high school, you think that you're gonna go to like your one school. It's like, dude, the amount of people I talk to that went to multiple schools like is more than often. Like you're not gonna find the person that found their dream school and started there all 4 years or whatever it may be. So where were we? COVID, right? I think for the purpose of this pod, let's just kind of wrap it up around like after COVID. I don't think we got to go super in depth.
Yeah, I mean,
or what do you think?
No, I mean, all I'll say with COVID is that I was kind of more prepared for like the mental impact of it. Like I'd kind of already been told like a couple years prior, like you don't get a season. So that was a little more for me. Like I kind of had some other outlets. I had a little bit of an approach to how you go about training baseball and trying to find the next career move. Because that's where we were both at, is we were trying to figure out, well, where are we going to go to a 4-year school? Where are we going to get our bachelor's? The degree
let's kind of stop there. What do you think? Like, what were your big, because I have mine obviously too, and we can touch on mine, but like, what do you think your big, call it 3 or whatever you want to call factors were for determining what your next school was? Like, what were you looking for?
I mean, I definitely
kind of just went to, like, what were you now like looking for?
No, I definitely wanted to go somewhere where, because again, like I said, the one thing about Bonzi too is whether I expected it or not, I made a lot of really good friends there. And I knew I wanted to go somewhere where I was going to meet a lot of those people. And just the sense at Franciscan from talking to some of the people, that box, I was pretty sure right away, like, yeah, it's a random school in Ohio, but at the very least, there'll be people there that I can become really good friends with. So that was probably my one, just because I didn't really want to go somewhere and have to deal with a team that not super focused, not a whole lot of people that really understand the game of baseball. So that was the one for me. Mm-hmm. And then the curriculum, the faith-centered community was big for me too, just because I got to take a lot of the classes that was really for what I wanted. And that was me too. And then too, it was a newer program. So there were definitely opportunities to play. And I think everybody, no one ever says it really, but when you're transferring from junior college, you want to go somewhere where you're going to play. You can say you want to get your education and everything, but at the end of the day, like no one wants to go and transfer and sit on the bench. And we can talk about that. I don't know if we're going to talk about today, but just the challenges of transferring. But there is I had a whole spreadsheet. I had everything checked out, and it's just Franciscan kind of became the easy choice.
What did you think that going to a faith-based school enhanced your faith or kind of turned you away in a sense?
Both. Yeah. Because obviously I'm very outspoken about my Catholic faith, and I love the Catholic Church, and I love talking about it to anybody who's willing. And I grew a lot in my faith at Wabanzi, which is not something I feel like people tend to think. That I know a lot of people will go to Franciscan because they want to grow in their faith, as in the fact that implying that God only works at those certain communities, which you can kind of figure out my attitude on that. I think if you're open to listening to God, it doesn't matter if you're in the middle of New Mexico or Maine or wherever. God is omnipresent. He's going to go wherever. He's going to be wherever. He's going to work wherever. So it was definitely a new environment that, like, Wabanzi religion was kind of just outside of, like, it's the public school boundaries that nobody wants to talk or imply about anything. Whereas Franciscan, it was very much expected that it was a common thing that everybody shared, which there's pros and cons. The pros being I learned a lot about catechesis and understanding the faith, and a lot more of the why that I've been longing to. And the cons being it's not the most diverse environment, that you're hearing a lot of the stuff day in and day out. So for me, I was not raised in that. So I always tend to be the one that wants to go against stuff, not in terms of like going against God or anything or doing what's bad, but I want to be kind of contrarian. And I will say, that was kind of the group that I found at Franciscan was a lot of the baseball guys that we really care about getting better at baseball, and we want to use our Catholic faith to our advantage. We want to grow in it. We want to grow in community. We want to learn lessons from each other. We want to inspire each other. We want to make a difference in the world. So that's sort of like so that team atmosphere was really good. We had a lot of like-minded guys that were very much in like baseball is secondary to faith, but we're still going to put a lot of emphasis on it. We're not just going to say that, oh, we're here for Jesus and then just go out and play the sport. Like it's,
I think that's a good outlook to have. Cause I think you touched on it a little bit earlier in that rant there, just about like, I think if you go to a school intending that's going to draw you closer to God, I think that's kind of where the danger lies.
Yeah.
And I saw that a lot of Brian too. It's like, especially with the closed-minded view of
right,
like a Christian or Catholic school, like that's really hard too, because it's like, I mean, we didn't really touch upon my faith, but like I did not grow up in the church. And so being around people all the time that did grow up in the church, I think me more than anyone, I can see how that almost turns someone away.
Yeah.
So you kind of need that diversity in a sense.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good boundary to have to like, yes, this school is going to help enhance my faith, but don't let that be the complete end all be all of what I view God as. Because at the end of the day, it's just imperfect people trying to bring a perfect God into a school environment. So there's going to be
flaws. Yeah. I mean, this is a good discussion. I think we could probably pick up in another pod just about how that all works. But
right.
Yeah, I think the number one thing too is, like I said, it's the community of people that when you're a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds in college, like you'll talk about your faith. At the end of the day, like you want to sit around and do fun activities and play video games together and go out to the bar or whatever, or go watch a baseball game or whatever, like just sitting around eating meals. At the end of the day, like it's not like you go to a faith-centered school and you're always talking about it, you're always praying together, you're always doing whatever. It's like you're doing a lot of it. It's more like you're just trying to figure out like, how does this all fit into my life? And that part of it was a good challenge for me. But like, it was definitely a shock. Like, I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but like literally every time we got to practice, every time before after games, we prayed publicly. We did stuff. Did I ever tell you? I have told you shout out Father Denny, the goat.
Father Denny.
Yeah, Father Denny's probably. I got a couple of stories where he had to keep me in line at Franciscan. There was well, definitely a bunch of good, especially that Florida trip. But where was I at? But he would always say our prayer before our games, and he'd go on the microphone and he'd say a prayer, and it would be very eccentric, it would get us going, get us in the right mindset, get us ready to just go and play for Jesus. But more often than not, like everyone had the perspective that like God doesn't help people win. He doesn't help people. Well, he can definitely keep people safe. I'm not going to speak to how he acts, but at the end of the day, he's there. Jesus is going to walk with us. And that there's all sorts of people with their own challenges, and ideally a sport is just a place to go and should kind of go and get away from life and compete and learn some valuable lessons. But that was like, again, too, like I remember Wabanzi, there were a couple of times where me and you would pray before games, we would invite people. And it was like, I just remember feeling nervous. Like, I don't want to offend somebody. I
totally remember that one time. It was a cold, freaking freezing day. And it was you, me, and Sharp in the dugout.
Yeah.
Before, like one of our morning meetings or something. Like,
yeah,
I feel like trying to find a way to intertwine that, whether you go to a Christian school, whether you go to a public Division I, like finding ways to intertwine that, I think could make such a huge difference in just the lives of young athletes. Because I feel like when you do that, like find a group of people that you enjoy being around and then bring God into that mix, I think it's just the most natural way to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, look at like University of Oklahoma softball. Like I think there's a reason that so many people resonate with them. It's because they're vulnerable with their lives in the sense that they're not perfect and they're portraying God. And yeah, they get a lot of backlash for that. But I think like that's a step in the right direction of like what it should look like to follow God on a day-to-day basis. It doesn't have to mean that like I go to a Christian school or I go to a Catholic school or I go to church every Sunday. It's just like, this is what it looks like following God. It's not always perfect, but I'm gonna try my best.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, though, one of the bigger lessons that Jesus teaches is humility, and we talked about that right off the bat. That like when you're going to a school, you're going to face a lot of adversity, and you have to be very good at. Okay, I'm humbled. How do I move on? Like I just saw a post that me and you are sitting around doing a podcast, working our jobs, and Evan Carter's 21 and he just won a World Series. Saw a shirt, he was wearing something, says Jesus won. And realistically, like you don't get to that point as a 20-something-year-old if you don't have everything figured out. Yep. Meaning that you're going to get humbled at certain points. You're going to have your head on straight. You're going to have to avoid a lot of distractions. And it's not all before you're 21. There's a constant scheme to that, but you can definitely see like that's a big thing that coaches, you try and instill to your players to be humble.
Yep.
And realistically, the faith does that. The faith is going to humble you. If you have grounded purpose in that, you're always going into the game saying, this is just me going out and living according to the gospel. It's not my identity. It's not that if I strike out to end the game, that I'm going to hell. That's ridiculous. Anyone would think that. But if you strike out to end the game and that makes you a bad teammate, it makes you bad to people. It's like it grounds you to the sense that you're saying that you have when you're learning with failure. It's like, okay, still got to give back to God. I deal with success, still got to give it to God. At the end, it does kind of make everything seem very trivial in the sports sense that it really is. You're just out there with your boys at the end of the day.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Kind of transition a little bit. We can kind of skip past. I feel like the more episodes we have, like we'll touch on specific. I think people understand the background a little bit more. So let's just kind of let's fast pace a little bit to today and kind of explain like if you want to touch upon experiences that kind of have gotten to you to where you're at, and then I can kind of attest to mine a little bit too. Kind of explain what you're doing now, what a day-to-day life looks like, what your goals are, what's your training split looking like. Go from there.
Yeah, the training split is still a work in progress, but no, I work for the state of Illinois. I'm a budget analyst. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to disclose too much about my position. It's not like what?
You don't want to cancel Juiced Up day one?
No, it's more that I just don't. Yeah, I don't want to. This is separate from my work. It's not. I don't need to be going out. I'm not trying to speak for anyone or anything. So I'm not. I don't have all the classified files, but I don't. No, but I work there full time. So I got my master's in econ last year, and that was a weird transition because I'm going to school and no baseball. So there is a point to like you have to. Everyone, what's the Moneyball quote that you're all told at a certain point you can't play the child's game anymore?
Yep. And some are told younger than others. We were told pretty young.
You can get to the end of your college years and be like Declan Peterson and decide I want to go play out in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and get paid $58 a week in the Pecos League because your passion for baseball is just that strong. And you can get to it and be like, myself and be like, I've served my time with this. I'm ready to transition to the golf course.
That's right.
That's kind of where we're at now. So I commend you too, because that's why I'm trying to get involved with this too, just because right now baseball is not a huge part of my life, but I definitely see in the future that I want to be involved in coaching or some kind of administration with it. And I do think my perspective as a college athlete is it's given me a lot, and I want to give that back in whatever ways I can. And that's why I have a ton of respect for you in whatever ways you're just trying to give back to the next generation or next wave of athletes, that there's going to be a lot more people going through D3 JUCOs, going through any kind of colleges, and everyone's got their own story. And if there's anything to come out of this, it's just, eventually you're done with it, so don't complain too much while you're in it, because you can complain about how much your coach is making you run or how you don't like practices or how you don't like your teammates, but eventually you'll sit back and be like, man, I wish I was still with the guys.
Yeah, no, that makes you I was listening to a Yoakum strength podcast, and I'm sure we'll touch upon
we're simping Yoakum now.
Many
shout out to Go. Hands down, aside from maybe there's a couple other accounts, but he's probably the
got to be
best.
top 5.
I'd say he's top 3.
Top 3. But he made a really good point. He was interviewing a former strength coach about why he left the field, and he's a plumber. And I think we can kind of relate this to us. It's like when you're in the field, and for us, that's college athletics. Like you want to say that you see from an outside point of view, but you really don't, because you're so saturated in the field and you're so invested into it. And even with like strength coaches, like you're arguing about these stupid arguments when in reality they don't matter. And I think the same thing.
Bench press is bad. RDL split squats.
Right. It's like these arguments don't matter. Yeah. And I think for you and I, it's like we have this perspective now of college athletics where it's like we can kind of see a different point of view and look as outsiders looking in now for those guys that are going through the process that might be a little bit more closed-minded because that's like their end all goal is like be a Division I athlete. And so you kind of touched on it too. It's like our job now, whatever that may look like, is to try to give back to those players and speak a little bit light into them in the sense that like, look, man, like if you ain't a D1 player, then don't go D1 just because of the hype. Like take the JUCO route, take whatever route that might look like for you. And above all else, just enjoy playing the game because it's going to be over sooner than you think. So
yeah, and the reason I joked about it earlier too, like you could take the top D3 JUCO, NAIA, like all the random teams, like you throw them all in a tournament, you can't really tell a difference.
Yeah,
D1 guys, the whole D1 barrier, I think, is D1 players are just going to physically mature quicker.
I mean, you and I went to a freaking Big Ten D1 game, and their Saturday started was 87. I mean, I'm not saying that I can go throw 87 right now, but if that's your D1 Saturday guy, I mean, what are we doing with the sub 5 ERA? Like, come on.
Yeah, there's again too. Yeah, there are a lot of schools, so prioritize the fit. I think we both did that pretty well. I think that was one of our focuses and also too, it's not going to be always optimal. You're going to have your bumps in the road. And at the end of the day, if you put in the work, you might not play, but you're going to grow from it. And that's going to prepare you when you have to live in the real world. And
exactly.
The issues are more like, okay, well, what am I going to do in my job today? Who needs me to do my job so that the world can move on?
Mm-hmm.
Who in my work environment am I going to encounter that needs to hear or needs a friend that needs to hear something that's
and that all comes with like some humility. I don't think you reach that point without humility, like especially if you're an athlete or whatever and you still got this ego that you can play D1 but you can't. It's like if you're not getting rid of that ego now, like you said, it's just going to kind of carry over with you for the rest of your life. So
that's our stories. That's our how to do life, how to do college baseball.
Yeah, I guess I can quickly explain where I'm at, I guess, and we'll kind of wrap it up with that. So took an internship to get in the strength and conditioning realm out of college. That was a really good eye-opening experience for me just to kind of, start working with athletes and stayed at that gym for about a year and a half and kind of just allowed me to open up my perspective to training in a sense to kind of formulate my own views, formulate my own thoughts on training and kind of lead me at where I'm at today and how I want to try to intertwine the baseball specific side of things and the strength side of things, because I think even if you asked me probably a year ago, like I always wanted to just stay in the strength realm, but
you're getting drawn back in.
What's that?
You're getting drawn back into baseball.
Yeah. I mean, I think like when you start to dive deeper in the strength world, like having a better understanding of the sport you're trying to work with. And I'd love to work with multiple sports, but just like, I feel like kids kind of gravitate towards me in the baseball world just because I had a little bit of success there. And so they want that, I guess reaffirmation that like you're getting trained by someone that kind of knows the ropes a little bit. But at the same time, I felt like I didn't know much. Like when I was a hitter, I had some things that I followed and they worked for me, but I don't think that I had a good approach to hitting or throwing or just like the biomechanics side of baseball. So I'm currently trying to dive a little bit deeper down that, learn kind of how to, structure a good swing, structure a good throw, and in addition, kind of, continue to grow on the strength side of things. So obviously, end goal would be to kind of have a space where we can just, train guys that want to do both and just, continue to work with them every day and find a way to make them the best athletes they can be and take them to whatever level they want to be and just be a small part of their journey.
So in the meantime, what's the best way for athletes to find you?
I'd say Instagram. I'm most active on Instagram. I try to stick to my 3-day-a-week schedule. So you can find me posting Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
My kid's account is Michael Maynard at M_Maynard32. I have like 9 posts. I mostly just am on it for the reels and the memes. So
yeah.
So yeah, follow me, don't follow me, I don't care. But follow Grant. Pulling up right now. What is it? What's your account? Give us the plug because you're putting out a bunch of good stuff. You're putting in the thoughtful posts, and you're trying to get people.
Man, we're trying to kind of show the world that it's a little bit more than just this and that. Like there's a little bit that goes into it. But also, with that said, to not get lost with the stuff that does go into it. So at Grant_Lala is where you can find me on the gram. Just shoot me a direct message on there, and I can get back to you. You won't be
weird.
What do you mean?
You're not going to say that, oh, no, I'm not good enough. You know what? Cut this out.
Yeah,
I was trying to make a bench shirt, but yeah, never mind. That's all right.
Oh, yeah, you can find.
Yeah, we were good on the cutting too. Like I think most of this can make it into there, but
yeah, I feel like we got most of it in there. Oh, TikTok is the same too. I'm trying to get the TikTok rolling a little bit. What we got on TikTok? We got at Grant Lala on TikTok. And then of course the Juiced Up blog is in the bio. It's a little bit too expensive to buy a domain, so we're just rocking with the Wix site for now. So yeah, that's
as of POP. Grant is at 1,499 followers. So
yeah, give me the 1,500.
Give me that 15,000 and get more. We want 3,000.
We'll see if the pod draws any more.
We want 3 million.
So let's kind of finish up this. What do we see with the podcast? Like, are we going to go with like a weekly thing, maybe a monthly thing? What are we thinking for the listener?
Are we committing to this right now? I mean,
yeah,
put me on the spot. I don't know. I mean, I say for right now, just as often as we can, and whenever we feel like called to talk about certain topics. We've definitely discussed this. That we have a lot of guests and we have a lot of people that we want to bring in for conversations.
Yep.
And I think we definitely have a lot to share, and definitely some more good stories too. So
yeah, I think it's gonna be a good thing, and if anything, it just allows us to catch up and kind of shoot it out a little bit, see what we're working with. But no, I think this will be a good podcast, and we appreciate you guys for listening. Appreciate you guys stopping by. And you want to end with what do we always end with? If you follow me, you should know.
Stay juicy. Is that what we're doing?
Stay juicy.